we are talking about how to renew your business and your life without losing your edge. And I'm excited today because I've got my friend Brandon Lee here with me. Brandon is the founder of Funnel Amplified, and basically, for me, all things social media and all things digital marketing and all of that good stuff. So on today's show, we're going to talk about brand marketing, and specifically brand marketing in a digital world. Because as you know, we've got all this craziness and all this online stuff, and I was teasing you because you founded a million companies all having to do in the digital space. So I know every time I have a question about how do I market myself or my companies or anything like that, you're kind of the go-to.
Thank you.
So how did you?
Fun.
But how did I know I like it? So how did you get into this?
Accidentally, of course. My formal education was in organizational development. I have a master's degree in that.
Okay.
And intended to go get my PhD, and I wanted to do consulting work at a high level. And while I was in grad school, I had to put myself through grad school, and I was working for a company in the sports industry, and I started doing marketing, and I really just kind of fell in love with the thoughts of how do you present products in a way that buyers want to buy it? And
Right.
how do you differentiate from your competitors? And so when I finished my master's degree and I had my PhD applications going out, I got job offers in the sports marketing space, and I pursued it. And here I am.
That's kind of cool. All right, I like sports marketing because I always
Yeah.
thought that would be like, if you're going to go marketing, that's a kind of a cool way to go.
Yeah, my first job out of college was actually doing marketing for Vail Ski Resort. It was a dream
Oh
job.
my gosh, for like a 20-something-year-old.
Oh yeah, and when my friends were like in boardrooms and everything else, I'm like, look at my office. And
I
I'd
know.
send them pictures like, this is my office. It was pretty incredible.
That's cool. Why? So back. All right, I say back then because I know you and I are the same age. So we, it's back then marketing was different. It was not. We didn't have social media. We didn't have all these online platforms, and it was really what a company could put into it. So I feel like digital marketing has leveled the playing field a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. But you've heard me say this before. Like nothing has changed. It's just different. Right?
Yep.
Social media, digital marketing. I mean, none of it has changed. We just do it differently than we used to. So you think of social media as like a networking event.
Yep.
It just happens 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So when you show up into social media, just like a networking event,
Right.
you got to have a plan.
Right.
What do you want to do? Who are you going to talk to? And I like to use I kind of speak in hyperbole to make examples of things.
That's perfect.
But look, if you show up if you sign up for a social media or a networking event,
Right.
that's great.
Right.
But if you don't show up and actually attend, it doesn't do you any good.
That's
Right.
true. And having a plan
And
too
have a
when you're
plan,
there.
right? And you can keep going step by step, right? So you sign up and then you show up,
Right.
but you're a wallflower. You just sit in the corner. You don't know what to do. Well, that's not going to do you any good either.
Right.
So it's having that plan to use a channel, and
Right.
social media is a channel, just like a networking event. You've got to be strategic about which networking events you go to. So in social media, who do I want to talk to?
And which platforms are they
Which
on?
platforms am
Yeah.
I going to use? What's my goal? What do I want to talk about? And I mean, one of the things that's transcended, whether it's offline networking event or social media or digital marketing, is conversation.
Right.
Right? How do you build relationships? And that's a skill that we need to refine even. I'm going to say even more, but it's always been important because if you
Right.
show up somewhere and it's a right place to be and it's full of your target prospects,
Right.
but you don't know how to communicate, you don't know how to build relationships, you don't know how to bridge that, it's not going to work.
And I feel like that's what we're seeing a lot. So I know in my clients, a lot of the coaching clients I work with, and you work with a lot of private clients as well, they'll come to me and they're like, oh, I'm on social. And I'm like, okay, so that's basically the analogy is you showed up at the event,
Right.
but you don't have a plan and you're not talking to anybody.
Right.
Or they're going in and just broadcasting. That's where I'm seeing a lot of digital marketing going, is just they're throwing stuff at someone and they're not engaging in a conversation.
Right,
And
right.
that's where that's where I see from a business standpoint, and honestly, a personal branding standpoint, that's the opportunity, is to engage them in conversation.
Yeah, and you and I have talked a lot about this, is that, so I have, you got to give things names, right? Make sure they stand out. So I have the infinity loop of relationship building.
I have seen the infinity loop. I'm going to post a picture of that because I do like that.
Yeah, the infinity loop of relationship building.
Yep.
What it really means is this. If you think about the infinity loop, right, it goes on forever.
Yep.
And our marketing is that way too. So that I've adapted it as we move more digital to say content creates conversations, right? Conversations turn into opportunities. Relationships, and then relationships turn into opportunities. And when you go back to nothing has changed, it's just different. That's always the way it's been. Right?
Right.
So I like to go back to pre-social media days when in my company, I was a CEO of a company, and I would get, people would come and knock on the door and cold call the office and ask for me.
Right.
Well, back then, everybody's, I don't want cold callers. But back then, the strategy was they have information.
Right.
And they were bringing information to me faster than I could get it. Because back then it was more of like trade shows.
You had to go places.
Right.
To
Industry newsletters that maybe came out once a quarter.
Yeah.
Gosh, I sound old.
That you got, I know, and then you got the paper copy of.
Right.
Yeah.
So every now and then somebody would knock on the door and they would want access to me, and I'd say, okay, because they were the source of information, right? They brought me content. And their strategy was, this content will create a conversation, which it did. Right. Tell me about it. I'm interested. Tell me more. And then it would turn into like, what do you want to go have lunch? Or hey, maybe you should go golfing with us sometime, which turns into relationships. And then those relationships turn into business opportunities.
And that's where the business comes from. Is the relationships. And that's the part I feel like with digital, people are skipping. They're trying to go right from it. I just pulled up your picture. I'll post it. They're trying to go right from and honestly, I think half the times they're skipping over content. They're like, I've signed up for Facebook. I signed up for Instagram, whichever one their market tends to be on. They're jumping right to the relationship piece.
Right.
And they're skipping the dating part. I feel like
and
we're going right for the
I don't even think they're skipping the relationship part. They just go straight for the close.
Yep.
And that's where the hey, social media doesn't work.
Yeah.
Then my first question is, well, you didn't work social media.
I like that though. Okay. Yeah.
Because social media works because it's the same thing that we've always done if you do it right.
So it's knowing your people.
Yeah.
And knowing what they need and how you can converse and build a relationship with them.
And I think knowing how to show up.
True.
Right? Knowing how to show up. So one of the things that I teach my team and my clients is your back pocket questions.
Okay.
Right? And it's because when you're in a social event, right, people don't care about you.
For sure.
They care
and that's
about
what
them.
They go there and they start talking about themselves. Right. And they don't want to hear about you.
Right.
They want to know what you can do for them.
Right.
A lot of times.
So strategically, I like to have people say, have 5 questions. I call it your back pocket question.
Okay.
Figuratively, you're going to reach in your back pocket and pull out these questions. Right. But what are your 5 back pocket questions that you use to get to know people? Because at the end of the day, we've heard this over and over and over again. Yep. People don't remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel. Yep. That's called relationship building. Now, I'm not saying do this with bad intent.
And it should be good questions too. It's not like if you go back to your networking event analogy, it is not the weather. It is not baseball. It is not for social media what you had for lunch today that you post a picture of. It needs to engage them. Yeah.
And I walk people through, they've got to be questions that are about them, but they also need to be topics that you genuinely care about. Because if you're just doing this flippantly to actually try and fake a relationship, it's not going to work. People, they'll see right through it.
Yeah.
So they've got to be things that are genuinely important to you. So for me, I ask questions about what they love about their job or their role.
Yep.
I ask them if they could be doing something different, what would it be? Right? And then I ask them about their family and their work-life balance, because those are things that are important to me. Right. And they're important to me for other people as well. So I don't go into full coaching mode.
Right.
But those are topics that if I need to be able to move a conversation along, those are my back pocket questions. And again, they're topics I care about, but they're about them, and I get them talking. And that's my content that creates conversations.
Right.
Because through that conversation, I'm hoping a relationship will develop. And then through relationships is where opportunities come about.
That's the part I agree with you 1,000,000%, as you know that, because you and I've had enough offline conversations to know we think the same way with this. But that's the part I feel like most businesses, I know a lot of the people that listen to our podcasts are either in professional services, solopreneurs, and they're trying to build their own brand. So frequently it's just them, or just them with maybe an assistant or two or a small team. And I feel like a lot of times smaller businesses and firms are making it more complicated than it is. It's, it's possible to do this and engage in conversation if it's just you.
Right.
But people shy away from any type of digital presence or marketing because they feel like it's a lot.
Well, I think it's a combination of they feel it's a lot, and also it doesn't give a short-term return in their mind. So I read an article the other day about businesses right now in this COVID world, and this is more like SMB to enterprise, but I think it trickles down and affects all of us, is that companies aren't thinking beyond 120 days right now.
Right.
We live in this whole new environment.
I think that's
crazy.
the same for small companies and solopreneurs too.
And I think solopreneurs live that way all the time.
Yeah.
And so when you look at growing a business, in my opinion, you're looking at performance marketing,
right,
and you're looking at brand marketing.
Okay.
Right? Those are the two different ways of considering it. And I'd like to propose that there's a third in-between model. And I haven't figured out what I want to call it
come
yet.
Up with a new name.
Yeah, but like if somebody wants to help me coin this term, right? So performance marketing is like social ads. It's like Google AdWords. It's really
your Facebook ads, all your stuff you're paying for.
Right. It's all paid advertising with a purpose, right? I want somebody to click this, go to this landing page,
right,
download this PDF and become part of my mailing list.
Right.
Right. That's been traditionally for the last, 10-ish years with inbound marketing and what we've done with performance. And we rate ourselves as being, hey, I spent, $100 on social ads.
Right.
And out of that, I've generated, 10 new people on my database. I did $10 per lead, and now I have them in my database and I can nurture them. Right? More performance marketing.
Right. So that's more tactical, and you've got some very distinct measures.
Right.
Because I know I've worked with you on some of that before with my own brand, because that was a foreign thing for me. I had always I felt good on the content engagement piece, but the paid and that stuff was new, as you know, new territory to me.
Well, and I think it's even changing more dramatically now, and that's why I say there's something in between, because when technology's advanced, go figure, we know that, right? Dust statement. But one of the things that we forget is that as technology has changed for us as business owners, technology has also changed for buyers. Right? And we're all the same, right? I'm a buyer and I'm a seller.
Yeah.
But the technology that's changed for buyers is that I don't have to listen to people I don't want to listen to.
Right.
And when you go back to my analogy of somebody door knocking at my business and me allowing them in and access to me, I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Because what they had was content, and I don't need them for content anymore. So everybody listening, put on your hat as a buyer right now. Like we all like to be, I'm a business owner, here's what I do. But put your hat on as a buyer and think about what you do with content these days. So number one, we all have caller ID.
Yep.
So if someone cold calls us or calls us we don't want to talk to, we don't answer. We send them to voicemail. We even have apps that block people. So if somebody's calling us and we don't want to talk to them, we can block them and we never even hear the phone ring.
Right.
On my iPhone now, if I get an email that's from a newsletter, I have a simple button right there that says unsubscribe.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So we can unsubscribe. We can block people from calling us. We can even unfollow people on Facebook and LinkedIn without unfriending them.
Right.
It means basically,
you're not seeing their stuff.
I don't want to be rude. I don't want them to see that I'm blocking them, but I don't want to see their crap.
And I feel like people don't pay attention to that enough, to the fact that people can do that. Because I always with my own business, my clients, I'm like, what would you put yourself in their shoes?
Right.
But because so many times we put stuff out there and we think, oh, this is fantastic, but it's not. It's salesy.
Right.
And I hate salesy
Right.
stuff. I will block you all day long
Yeah.
if you're being mean or salesy.
Sales without a relationship doesn't work.
For sure.
A sales pitch without a relationship,
Yeah.
it just doesn't work right now. So I call this one the circle of trust.
Yep.
Right? If you think of the good old Meet the Parents movie
Yeah,
back in the day, that
that's
was
right.
hysterical.
That's a great movie.
It's,
Yeah.
hey, it's the circle of trust. And we need to earn to get into our buyer's circle of trust. And we don't do that by sales pitches. So
100%
if
agree.
you think about, and I'll share this graphic with you, if you think about the buyer as the center of their universe,
Right.
one of the things that we as sellers forget, right? They are the
Yeah.
center of their universe. And we like to talk a lot about the buyer's journey, but the reality is what we think the buyer's journey is just not accurate. We think the buyer's journey is this linear process that they go through, and buyer's journeys go all over the place because there's so many variables that are influencing their activity and their buying decision. So the challenge that we have as solopreneurs, as professional service providers, or even sales reps in franchise or SMBs, in my opinion, is we need to be invited and welcomed into their circle of trust.
Which means we have to quit doing things that are causing them to block us and not follow us and everything like that.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
So then the question becomes, how do we get invited into the circle of trust? Well, I like the word trusted advisor, and I think with professional services, they know
my
that term.
financial guys use it all the time. Yep.
When it comes to digital marketing, social media, your online presence, your brand, if you are not giving trusted advice,
Right.
you're never going to be seen as a trusted advisor.
And this is also includes the stuff you're doing digitally. So trusted advice, not that you're paying for, like giving, I always say help them. I use the Mr. Rogers, be the helper thing.
Right.
Give them advice that they like, that builds
Right.
trust with you, but you're not selling it to them. You're just helping.
Right. It's, digital is the same. It's just, it's different, but it's the same, right? So if you're at, whatever, the Braves lost this week, but let's say you're at a Braves game and you're, and you're, you've got prospects there or something. You start chatting with them about things that are important, but you don't go for the sale.
Right.
Right. You're building a relationship. Our content should be doing the same thing. So think about in terms of content is one way I look at content is what questions do your customers ask?
Right.
Answer those questions in content. Right. The other thing I like to say is your buyers are human.
Yep.
What else do they care about? And if you do personas well,
Yeah.
outside of, here's what they care about when buying, what does the rest of their world look like?
Right.
Are they family oriented? Are they single? Do they live in the city? Do they live more in the suburbs?
Yeah.
Are they athletic and they like these, those types of things? If you're sharing content that influences other areas of their lives, guess what? They see you as like them, similar to them.
Right.
And then they're inviting you into the circle of trust because they feel this affinity or this connection
And that's
with you.
the part I feel like a lot of people, is your people are starting to be online more to present their brand. They're missing that piece. I feel like a lot of companies and people are going out and saying, okay, here's what I do, here's what I offer, but they're forgetting to say, here's who I am and how I connect. So we talked earlier this month about finding your people. That's a big thing for me, is knowing your market but describing them, like being able to describe. I've said before, I work with type A, Uber-driven women who like a great pair of shoes and wine night. So it is not uncommon for me in some of the groups I'm in and some of my stuff to do that, to have a glass of champagne or to have something like that. I know you're a bourbon cigar guy, so there are things of your life that are true to you that you can use in your digital marketing that will help connect with and find your people. And even like I picked up a coaching client one time because I had posted something about, I did martial arts and I'd posted something about it and he happened to be a martial artist. And when he reached out to me to talk about coaching, he asked more questions about that than he did about my coaching or business or style. It's just it's that circle of trust. They want to know, they want to feel connected.
Right.
And if they feel connected, they'll engage.
Right. And what I found is, and I'll use this in the reverse. So even though I'm a coach, I always like to have a coach in my life.
For sure.
Because blind spots. And right.
Absolutely.
If I'm going to be a coach, I should value coaching. And so I always have coaches in my life. I'm actually in a transition right now. And I just hired somebody last night to become my new coach for this new season. And it was somebody that I developed a relationship with over the last 4 years.
Yep.
I see what he posts. I see what he talks about.
Yep.
And through his content and through some of our engagement online and in email, I didn't go to him and say, hey, tell me about how you coach. Tell me about I went to him and said, hey, I'm going to engage you as a coach.
Yep.
He didn't have to sell me on anything.
Correct. Yep.
Because the relationship building process, his content, my responses to his content, his responses to me, his responses to my content that I publish, some emails and,
right.
a couple of phone calls happened that were not sales oriented. They were just us getting to know each other over the last year. And so when I scheduled a call with him yesterday, I said, hey, I'd like to engage you in a coaching relationship. And he went, really, why? And, because he's like,
so
you're
he
a
was
coach.
Surprised by it.
Well, yeah, he's like, you're a coach. What do you, and I said, oh, well, let me explain it. Like, I always like a coach in my life because I know I have blind spots. There's always something I could be working on. But the point for your listeners is I invited him into my circle of trust.
Right.
Because he didn't try and sell me. But he shared good content.
Yep.
I got to know his style. I got to know his heart. I got to know a bit about him.
Right.
We started engaging. I kept it in my circle of trust over the last 3 years. And then when it came time to me going, I'm in a season for a new coach, I thought about my circle first.
For sure. Yep.
I didn't go Google. I didn't go, let me click on an ad. I thought about my own circle. So what does that mean?
Yeah.
I use paid advertising now to grow my network.
Reach. Yep.
I don't use it to sell. And I don't even really care about putting people on my email database. I know that sounds horrible.
Yep.
But my list now is my connections, my social connections.
Yep.
I still use email, don't get me wrong. I still think there's value in email. But I'm seeing a trend that I know for me, I delete way more emails than I read.
For sure. Same thing. Like somebody tried to sign me up for one the other day when I was shopping somewhere. And I'm like, nope. They're like, can we get your email address? No, you cannot. Nope. Because I hit delete at least 20, 30 a day.
So again, as we're thinking about from our business and how we're marketing, think about yourself as a buyer. And when I realize that I delete way more emails every day, I unsubscribe to a lot more emails because I just want my inbox not to be so freaking busy, right? But then as a business owner, I'm like, keep the emails going out. We got to keep, like, wait a minute. This is crazy behavior. If I act this way as a buyer, but I try to act this way as a seller, and there's a disconnect, something's wrong.
I feel like, and that's a huge point because I'm not seeing that trends. Like I like the engagement. That's my favorite. Like I love being on social and talking, and I respond to my own posts, and I just like that. But you're right. That's where that's where you do business. I mean, and I feel like whether it's a product or a service, definitely more in professional services, but even for product type of things or, restaurants or things like that, people want an experience.
Right.
They don't want, they don't want to just one and done, and they don't want to be sold for sure.
So let me extend this analogy that we've been talking about with like networking events and all that. Okay?
Which I hate networking events, by the way, which is so funny because I love social media, but I hate networking events.
There's this whole like struggle of me of like the introvert extrovert portion of all that stuff, but I think they're very valuable. And I like them in small doses. So for me, what
COVID has got us out of them this year, so we may be in trouble 2021.
You know what? With here, for people that don't like networking events, here's my challenge: have a purpose, have a goal, and get in and out with accomplishing your goal. Don't go like my challenge when I was younger is I looked at people that loved networking events and worked a room and everybody knew them.
I call them the card slingers. The one they're like, here's my card, take a pen.
Well, and some of them, like my friend Mark, like he genuinely just loves people, and he'll. No,
different Mark
Goodman.
I was about to say, we've got another Mark that we're friends with that's like same thing.
Yeah.
He's like all over the place.
He just loves people, and he loves to work a room and get to know people, and he loves to connect people together. And I used to look at people like that and I was exhausted because it's just not
Yep.
but I felt like, oh, if I'm at a networking event, I have to be like that.
Right.
And it was so much pressure and it didn't work. So for me, if I go into a networking event, I've got a small focus of what I want to accomplish, a few people I want to meet, develop a relationship, and I'm good.
Yep.
I don't need to know the whole room. And similarly in social media,
Yeah.
I don't need to be the most popular person out there. I don't
Right.
care about being an influencer.
Yeah.
I care about serving certain groups of people and doing it well so that I can provide for my family.
Right.
So I don't need to go out and be Gary Vee. I don't
Yeah.
need these are.
You don't
I love
cuss
listening
nearly
to
as
them.
much as Gary Vee.
Well, I'm on my best behavior right now, but I don't need that. And once I was
Right.
able to realize who I wanted to be and what I wanted to be, I took a lot of that pressure away. But can I go back to that
Yeah,
analogy? Because I think this
absolutely.
is important, especially with professional service providers. When we look at social media versus email,
Okay.
bring that analogy back to the networking event.
Okay.
Okay, I'm in a live networking event. I meet Kristen and I go, hey, you know what, Kristen? Can I have your card? Because I'm just going to start sending you my brochures, my direct mail pieces.
yeah.
I don't really want to talk to you. I just want to send you my brochures.
And you would never say that.
You would
to someone
never
in
do
person.
that.
For sure.
But there's a thing on social media that we do. It's like, well, go get in my email list.
Yep. Yeah.
No. If you've got an opportunity to get to know them, and they're
Right.
they're a high priority for you, they're whatever reasons, these are somebody you want to develop a relationship with. Put them up high on your top 50 list.
Right.
And go engage with them every day on social media. Have a strategy to do it so you
Right.
don't look like you're just trying to engage.
Right.
But still, I met you, it's online.
Yep.
We've, now I friended you, and now I want to develop that relationship deeper, faster by engaging in your content, inviting you to engage in mine, because
Yeah.
all of that is, it's a real, crazy term. It's called conversations.
Well, and it's engagement, not selling. And that's really where that's where everything has been trending. I feel like we've had a greater opportunity in 2020 to engage more people strategically. I don't know that people have taken that. So to your point, I'm still seeing a lot of broadcasting.
Yep.
Instead of engaging.
Yeah.
And I love the engaging too. And, I'm like you, I'm a coach. And I have the same philosophy because I feel coaches should have coaches. I've always had one or more in different areas of my life, just depending on where I'm messing up, where my blind spots are
That's
the
right.
biggest. But, that's kind of what we do is we naturally do that. And the same thing with networking. I mentioned I don't love networking events. So my goal is always, I've never a work the room person, which is funny because everybody swears I'm an extrovert and I really don't think I am. But if I go to a networking event, and I have a lot of clients like this, my goal is always, I want to have a great conversation with 3 people.
There you go.
That's it. I don't care. And my conversation needs to end with, you know what? I love this conversation. Would love to continue it.
There you go.
Whether that's in, before this, whether it was meeting for coffee, lunch, drinks, whatever. And I didn't care what the conversation was about.
Right.
I wanted to just see what it was. So I do tend to connect with people on, kids. I know you've got 38 kids and things like that, but
Might be 39 by now.
it could be. You better get home. No, it's just engaging with people on whatever's important to them. And I feel like if we do that, we're going to find our people, and the connection's easy. The engagement's easy if we just follow it.
I think so here's my kind of stake in the ground, my big statement. I get in trouble for this, but
I love trouble statements. Go for it.
Look, when social media and digital marketing started to grow, and this is like, I'm 50 now, so I start to sound like an old guy, and I don't mean to, but social media kind of became its own genre, and digital marketing became its own genre.
Yep.
And it didn't need to be. It's still marketing. It's still relationship building. So I think a lot of small business owners will get confused or frustrated when you hear things like content and engagement.
Yep.
And look, all of those things, it's the same thing we've always done. It's just different.
Yep.
Right? Content is just topics of conversation.
Yep.
Engagement
Absolutely.
is just engaging somebody in a conversation. None of that's changed. It's just happening here on our screens now
Yeah.
instead of real life. In 2020, more than ever, right? So don't get all worked up like, oh, what's my content strategy? Think about it. You know who your audience is.
Yep.
You know conversation topics that are important to them and important to you. Share it. Like, I love when I watch your, like, obviously I'm not a target customer for you because
you don't like high heels
I'm
and
not, you
and
know,
wine?
I'm not a kick-ass female. And yeah, high heels. I do like wine though. So, you know, you got one variable in there. But what I love about seeing your presence is it's truly who you are.
Yep.
And I want more professional service people to realize that if you're into wine, talk about wine online.
Yeah.
Your people are going to find you. If you're a foodie, talk about foods. You know, it's okay. Like the whole like pictures of your food. Look, if you're a foodie and you're talking about it, is we've talked about post, tag, praise, never about you. Very simple tool to use. If you're really into food and you go places, post about the food you're eating, tag the place you're at, praise the restaurant. Don't talk about you. And what'll happen over time is people that are your right audience that also like food, man, they're going to love you.
And that's what's so critical to remember. And I, like you said, I am what you see is what you get. Not for everyone, as you know. There are people who don't like me, my message doesn't resonate. I've been called out, and that's fine. And I feel like that's a part that holds some people back. Like, I totally get the fact that some people just aren't going to get me. And I had a friend last night was doing a live, and there were some haters, and he has a very large following, and there were some haters in there. And what was interesting is he didn't really dive into the haters, kind of acknowledged the comments that were scrolling briefly and kept going. But what was interesting is I'm watching the feed because I know him personally is his people, quote unquote.
They rose up
and they were jumping in and like, you know what? And they were praising and doing all that. So he didn't even have to, I don't want to say defend, but defend.
Right.
Because it's, if you're clear in who you are and who your people are, and you do you, I'm all about doing you. The messaging and the engagement becomes a natural extension. And I feel like, I don't know if you agree with that, but I feel like a lot of people are getting stuck there. Like they're not putting their full selves out. They're not speaking to their audience. I'm never going to offend. I'm from the South. I'm trying not to offend people. I'm sure I do, but just do you, and the right people will follow you, and the other ones will unsubscribe, and that's cool too.
And I think that as we stay true to who we are, what's going to happen is the people that don't want to follow us will stop, and the people that really resonate with us will. And we should all run our businesses that way. It doesn't matter if you're a wealth advisor, you're a realtor, you're a commercial real estate, you're an insurance agent. Like, stop trying to make people that are not going to like you like you. It's a waste of your time and energy, and applying it to social media as well. And here's, for anybody that, it's hard for me to say, if you haven't started in social media yet, I think everybody's tempted something, right? But here's what's going to happen. Let's just get this all out so you're prepared. The haters are going to show up.
For sure.
And just be prepared for it, right? You got to think like a duck. Water's going to hit my back. It's going to roll off. So here's a story I give, and this is back in 2013. We had sold a company, and I was trying to figure out who I was going to be when I grew up, and I got into inbound marketing and was taking a look at it and trying to figure out, okay, nothing's changed, it's just different. How do I apply what I know? I decided, hey, I'm going to start a blog. I was a little cocky, to be honest. I had sold a company. I was thinking pretty high of myself, and I'm going to write stuff, and people are going to want to read it.
People are going to come to you.
Right. I'm going to post it, and they will come. And so, and I'm not a designer, but I worked on these tools, and I had some design elements, and I created some social media post graphics that I thought looked cool, but of course they weren't. And I posted this blog, and then I shared it in social, and I waited. And there were crickets. And I thought, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do?
Right.
Well, number one, I was posting, not engaging. I had not motivated anybody to engage with me yet because I hadn't engaged with anybody.
Right.
I was a poster. I'm going to post this stuff and they will come because I'm so brilliant. Nah.
Yep.
None of us are that brilliant.
Right.
Right. The second thing that happened was I got an email. And the email subject line was about your blog.
I have heard this. Oh,
yes,
yeah.
About your blog. And I thought, woo, about my
Nice.
blog. I got a customer from it. Like, I'm just going to post one blog article and hundreds of customers are going to come and woohoo,
Yeah.
I'm a stud. Yeah. The email said, and this was from a friend, it was, air quotes for the podcasters out there, listeners out there. It said, I figured if you're going to write a blog in public, you should probably do it correctly. He had copied all my blog, put it into a Word doc, and then track changes and just bled all over my, when you track changes, it shows
Thank you
these
for
red
the
marks.
unsolicited feedback,
Yeah.
quote unquote friend. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the time, I wasn't thinking like a duck. I was thinking like a fragile human being with an ego that was
Yeah.
just completely bruised.
Yep.
And I went delete, delete, delete. And it took me 2 years to get back to blogging again.
Yeah.
And I tell that story. One, it's embarrassing that somebody had that much power over me.
Right.
But I also say it because we can't let people have that kind of power over
No.
us.
Yeah.
And I did it. And it cost me 2 years of blogging content. It cost me 2 years of relationship building. It cost me an entire channel
Yep.
that I should be using, like everyone listening should be using podcast and YouTube or blogging or whatever is,
Yep.
whatever comes
Wherever
to them.
your market is.
Right.
Wherever your market is.
That brand marketing right now is so crucial
Yeah.
because the performance marketing, it's not working as well anymore.
Yeah.
And it's because buyers are getting savvy. We are all
Yeah.
getting savvy and we don't
Yep.
fall for the marketing tactics, but we love relationships.
And that's where, if we can focus on that in any aspect, professional services. I mean, we went, a group of girlfriends and I went to dinner this past weekend. It was one of their birthdays. We picked a restaurant where, well, first of all, the food's insane. But we picked a restaurant because we know the chef. He makes a point to come out and check with us. And he knew it was the birthday girl. So he had texted to say, hey, is there any special dish I can prepare that
Yep.
is your favorite? Like, it was the relationship. So while his food is phenomenal, it's keema in Buckhead, which is insane. But while the food is phenomenal, Chef Pano goes the extra step to engage every single person that's there. And that's why
Relationships.
it's relationship.
Right.
We would go there anyway, but when we were planning a special occasion, I probably wouldn't go there because I don't live anywhere near there.
Yep.
I wouldn't go there nearly as often if it weren't for the effort the entire team there has made in the relationship.
Yeah, and I'll tell the story on the opposite just to emphasize this for everyone listening. Like it's the relationship. So you can apply it to digital marketing, you can apply it to social media, you can apply it to offline networking events, you can apply it when you go to the grocery store.
Right.
You apply it when you're on the sidelines of your kids' sports events or
Yep.
school activities. It's all the same. It's relationship, relationship, relationship. And when the relationship isn't there, the opportunities go away. So we have a story of just the opposite of what you just said about your restaurant. We had a restaurant that we loved going to, and the food was great, but they also worked really hard to get to know us. Now, as you said, we don't have 38 kids, we have 5. But when
I think
we,
it's a rounding error.
right,
but-
when we go somewhere out to dinner as the whole family, like we're a large party.
Yes.
And this place, they knew us. They would, they knew our little Zoe is the youngest,
Yeah.
and they always, brought her little special things. They bring her like dough from the back, and so she could play with it and stuff. And they took really good care of us, and it was good food.
Yeah.
But then like management changed, and and then we started going, and the new crew didn't really take the time to get to know us. And one, we were used to it. Not that we're totally high maintenance, but we were used to having that kind of treatment at that place. And then it was gone. And even like, our little one would be
Youngest.
like, am I getting dough? Like
Right.
they didn't do it on their own. And
But
stuff
that was
like
her experience
That was her
when she went
experience. And
there.
her
Sure.
experience changed. And then all it took was we had one bad meal experience and we just
And you
stopped
were
going.
gone. Yep.
Where if the relationship was strong still and we had a bad food experience, we'd be like, oh, chalk it up. Hey, you had a bad
Sure.
night.
Yep.
And it's been over a year and we haven't been back.
Well, and that's what's interesting is all of us are going to mess up. I've messed up with clients. I've messed up with we're all going to mess up.
Right.
And if the relationship is there, they're more forgiving. But that
Right.
goes back to knowing your people and knowing kind of who you are.
Right.
Because the right people are going to support you as long as you are continually working to nourish that
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah. And I think when when we think in terms of the circle of trust, that the buyers are the center of their universe, and our goal is to earn the right to be welcomed into their circle of trust.
Right.
It completely changes the way we show up all over, but especially online, right? If I'm about to post something that's very salesy and I remember I need to earn the right to be invited,
Right.
I'm going to change what I write. Right. And I look, I am all for sales messages. We all sell stuff.
Right.
Right. And if there's a value proposition, I'm gonna tell my audience, like, hey, I am selling this. I've got a new mastermind opened up. I got 10 spots.
Yep.
Here's what it's about. First come, first serve. Let's do this. I'm excited. But if I'm trying to build relationships with somebody, I'm not inviting them to my mastermind group. And I'm not sending them anything that's salesy. In fact, I'd like to do the opposite. I know you do this too.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I'd love to send you a free copy of my book.
Yep.
What's your address? I'd love to send this to you.
Right.
Right? How can I serve you?
And that's and that's where I feel like if we can keep that in mind, sales is okay, asking for business is okay, but it's got to be in conjunction with the engagement piece.
It's got to be in conjunction with the engagement piece. It's a whole strategy, but don't let that overwhelm you. It's not hard. I take little bits of things I've learned over the years, and when you put it all together, it makes a really wonderful soup.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Bob Berg with the Go Giver. Have you read the Go Giver book?
Isaac's nodding, yes. Yeah.
Awesome book. Bob's got an amazing heart. I've run into him a couple places, and he remembers me. That like that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
I've learned that from him. But simple things of when you meet people and you say, how can I help you, is one thing.
Right.
But when you go deeper and you say, who is your target audience, so that I can keep in mind in my network and be able to send someone to you.
Right.
And when you ask that deeper of a question and you're serious, like you support it, and someone goes, oh, well, I work with business owners who want to grow their business, but they're also trying to work on this home life balance because their family's important to them.
Yeah.
Like connecting those dots, that's my world. If I tell somebody that, and then a day later, a week later, a month later, all of a sudden I get a referral from that person, how much do you think I'm going to nurture that relationship now?
Right? All day long.
And I'm going to go back to Bob or whoever else and be like, how can I reciprocate?
Yep.
And all of a sudden there's a relationship, and guess what comes from relationships? Opportunities.
For sure. And people, building the relationship, as we've talked about, is key. I'm, with being the giver, I always push my guys and girls to say, okay, I want you to connect. When you meet somebody and it's a relationship you want to develop, I need you to help them before they help you. That's your goal. Your goal is to connect them. And I'm a to connect them with two people. I don't make it intentional, make it somebody they benefit, but you need to help them before you even think about asking them to help you. And
what I love about that,
it's hard to get people do. I love it.
Yeah.
It's just, it naturally, I like sending those connection emails.
Well, when you make it a tactic like that, right?
Yeah.
You make it an action step when you're coaching your customers. I think it makes it more tangible, because for all of us, we forget things. Like we get busy and we forget. So when it becomes part, like my favorite made up word, systematize, when you create systems for yourself, and a lot of people go, systems are all these scary words. No, we all have systems. The question is, are you intentional about your systems? So now that becomes a system of, hey, when I meet somebody, I need to introduce them to 2 quality people that are good for their business. That becomes your system. And when you do that over time, all of a sudden your system becomes a huge benefit to your business, because you're becoming a benefit to everyone else's business.
And the systems don't have to be I do make 200. I make a minimum of 2 a week. That's my goal. But I also send 2 handwritten notes a week, which is low. I mean, those are easy. It takes 20 minutes tops. Now that's on top of, those are just easy system things for me. I'm on social all the time, so I just like engaging.
Hey, I love. In fact, I just re-upped and got in my stationery, because I love doing handwritten notes too. Because
they're fun.
Right now, I don't know how many times I've gotten a phone call or an email from somebody that's like, I have not gotten a handwritten note in so long. And guess what? I rise to the top of their thoughts. and they call me or something, and I can use that to develop a deeper
Yeah.
relationship. And it's either going to be, some relationships, it becomes me helping them.
Yep.
And then some relationships become them helping me, and some become both. But they're all valuable.
Right.
Because
And it's letting go of the outcome. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, when I enter into a relationship with somebody, personally, professionally, whatever, I don't know who's helping who. I really don't. And if you sit there going, how can they help me? How can I,
Yeah.
you're approaching it the wrong way. It's
Yeah.
like, for me, it sounds very ethereal, but it's a vibe thing. It's like, I like this person. I can see, I don't know how we can help each other.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, if you've ever been introduced to someone else, for me, that's my email. It's like, hey, I don't know how you guys can be a resource to one another, but I think you're both awesome.
Right.
Here's what this one does. Here's what this one does. You guys have a conversation.
Yep.
And sometimes some really cool stuff comes out of it, but it's just because I thought, I like these people. I
Yeah.
think they'd enjoy it.
And I think some of the best stories of business,
Yeah.
if we go to the roots, they start that way.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right. So as we're closing out, because we had a lot of good stuff. I think we could talk for, you and I've said this, we could talk for hours. But so as people are thinking about this and really engaging and trying to close that infinity loop, what are 2 takeaways you want them, as we're, closing out, that you want them to remember? What do they
Yeah.
need to keep in mind?
It's a good question to everything we've talked about.
I know.
So I think number one, and I say it this way because I think it's memorable and it helps people remember it and apply it. Nothing has changed. It's just different.
Like that.
Don't
Okay.
get overwhelmed with words like social media. Don't get overwhelmed with words like content. Don't get overwhelmed with, oh, how am I supposed to post? You know what?
Got
If the foundation of your relationship building is good, your social media is going to be good.
Love it.
If your foundation of relationship building is self-centered, me-oriented, I want to sell you something, I want to close the deal today, well, then your social media is going to be bad, because it's not about the medium, it's
Right.
about the message.
Right. Love it. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much,
My
Brandon, for
pleasure.
being here. Said we'll I'm sure we will continue these conversations and have a lot more to
Absolutely.
talk about next time. So, all right, guys, until next week, take what Brandon's saying to heart, because I really feel that the more you can engage, the more you can find your people, understand what's important to them, and really seek to be the helper, it gets a lot easier to grow your business. So next week, we're going to continue and close out October, where we're talking about renewing your business. We are going to be talking about creating a business that fits you. We've spent a lot of time on professional services and how to really dive into businesses, but you know what? Professional services may not be for everyone. So we're going to take kind of what Brandon and I just talked about and what we've been covering all month. And my friend Matt Steele is going to join us and talk about different ways to build a business that may not fit your norm. So no matter what your passion is, no matter what it is you're interested in, there are ways to put that in your career and put that in your life. And that's what we're going to talk about next week. So keep pushing. And until next week, keep working to renew that business and that life.